All right, let's talk about something we all know, maybe a little too well, that nagging, persistent voice inside our own heads. In this explainer, we're going to dive into how we can turn down its volume and, find a much more balanced, peaceful way to live with ourselves.
Ugh, you're such a screw up. Or maybe yours sounds like, I always mess things up. Or just a simple, what a loser.
So, does that voice sound familiar? If you're nodding right now, you are definitely not alone. We call this the inner critic, and for a lot of us, it can feel like this constant, really unwelcome companion, always ready to question and judge, especially when we're already feeling down.
Now, here's the thing. That voice, it's not just some random stray thought. It's actually part of a really powerful pattern we call a negative thought spiral. And once you get caught in it, man, breaking free can feel almost impossible.
A thought spiral basically has three key players, and they all feed off each other. First up, you've got distorted thinking. That's when our mind just blows things way out of proportion. Then there are emotional triggers. Those situations or even memories that just push all our buttons. And the final piece of the puzzle? That's the negative self-talk, that relentless inner monologue of criticism. So when you put those three together, you get this incredibly powerful self-sustaining loop. A trigger sparks a distorted thought, which then fuels the negative self-talk, which makes us even more sensitive to the next trigger. It's a cycle that can leave us feeling totally drained, anxious, and just stuck. So the big question is, how do we find a way out?
Okay, so our first, and I mean most crucial tool is mindfulness. I want you to think of it as the ultimate pause button for that spinning, chaotic thought spiral. It gives us that little bit of space we desperately need to stop just reacting and finally start responding.
So what is it, really? Well, at its core, mindfulness is just the practice of paying attention to what's happening right now, on purpose. And, this is the most important part, without judgment. It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about learning to watch them from a bit of a distance. Now this is where the magic really happens. Look at this small but profound shift. Instead of getting all tangled up in a thought like, I'll never be good enough, mindfulness helps us step back and just observe, I'm having the thought that I'll never be good enough. That tiny change creates this huge amount of mental space. Suddenly, you aren't the thought, you're the one noticing the thought. And when you practice this, you start to see your thoughts for what they really are. They're just temporary mental events. They're like clouds passing through the vast sky of your mind. They show up, maybe they hang around for a bit, but eventually they drift away. They are not permanent, and they are not you. Okay, so mindfulness hits that pause button and gives us some breathing room. The next question is, what do we do in that newfound space? Well, this is where our second solution comes in, and it's called self-compassion. It's all about choosing a kinder, more supportive way to respond to ourselves. This whole idea comes from the amazing work of researcher Dr. Kristen Neff. She defines self-compassion as, simply, treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you would totally offer to a close friend who is struggling. It's about turning that compassion inward instead of just giving it away to everyone else. Let's look at what this actually looks like. The inner critic just screams, right? What a loser. I can't believe I messed that up again. But a self-compassionate voice responds so differently, so much more gently. It's okay to make mistakes. I'm doing my best. See, we're not denying that we messed up, but we're changing the tone of our inner dialogue from that harsh judgment to a much gentler understanding. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it in the moment? Let's get practical and look at some simple, powerful techniques that combine both mindfulness and self-compassion. Here's a super simple but honestly incredibly effective process. Observe, name, release. First, just observe the thought. Notice it's there without trying to fight it or push it away. Second, gently name it. Just labeling it worry or that self-criticism takes away so much of its power. And finally, release. Take a deep breath and just let the thought pass on its own without clinging to it. Now, if you feel that thought spiral really starting to rev up, here's another fantastic tool. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. It literally pulls your attention out of your racing mind and back into the present moment by using your senses. You just pause and identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can physically feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It's like a quick reset for your entire nervous system. So we've talked about hitting the pause button on the critic and responding with kindness. But what if we could go even deeper? What if we could completely change our perspective on that inner voice? Let's be honest. For most of our lives, we've treated this voice like an enemy, right? Something we have to fight, something we need to shut up. But what if that whole approach is just wrong? What if the inner critic isn't an enemy at all? This is a really powerful reframe that comes from therapeutic models like internal family systems, or IFS. The idea is that the inner critic is actually a protective part of you. Think of it like a really worried, maybe overzealous friend who's just desperately trying to keep you safe from getting hurt again, from being judged or rejected. Its methods are harsh, for sure, but its intention actually comes from a place of care.
So what does that mean for us? It means instead of fighting it, we can engage with it differently. We can get curious. We can actually ask it questions like, hey, what are you so afraid is going to happen? We can offer it compassion by saying, I get it. I know you're just trying to help. And we can stay calm, creating that inner space to listen without getting totally swept away by its drama.
And this quote just captures the heart of this whole shift perfectly. My inner critic didn't need silencing. It needed my presence. It doesn't need to be kicked out or shut up. What it really needs is our calm, compassionate attention, to know that we're here, we're listening, and that we're the ones in charge now, leading from a place of strength and kindness.
You know, at the end of the day, the goal isn't to achieve some perfectly silent, Zen-like mind. I mean, that's probably not realistic for most of us. The real goal is to transform your relationship with this part of yourself, to go from an inner battle to an inner conversation, and maybe even turn that harsh critic into a respected, if sometimes a little misguided inner companion.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. The very next time that critical voice pops up, what if you didn't see it as an attack, but as a signal, an invitation to just pause, take a breath, and offer yourself a little bit of kindness? What might change for you if you did?